All right, I think we should go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody. Thanks for coming out this evening for this important event. I think it's always important to do your civic duty on a number of levels, especially here at our school. If there's nothing more important than making sure that we have some very qualified and very dialed in board of directors, and so that's what this wonderful panel up here is vying for. We have 2 seats available this year. The 2 seats that are coming vacant are Bill Werst's seat, and he's running again, and Crissy Kopren's seat, and she's running again. And these will be 3-year appointments. And how and I should have looked this up, but how we do it is we do rotations of either 3 board members and 2 board members and 2. We never have a majority go off the board at a time. So this is one of the 2-year rotations that we have 2 board members going off at this time. So that's who we are electing for this election, are those 2 board seats. But again, thank you so much for coming out tonight. This is a very important thing. I'm always really interested in it because they're my bosses. It's kind of fun to see who gets elected as my boss, right? Every year it's really an exciting thing. And I have to say, it's been a joy working as the headmaster at this school. For the last 10 years, the board of directors has just been a beautiful panel and really focused on doing a good job, and it was a joy to work with them. And so we're looking forward to more years of good board and administration and school relationship. So what we're going to do to start off with is if you just came in, if it looks like Amy's catching them, if you have any questions that you want to have asked or to have considered, please fill them out on the card and return them to Amy, and then they'll take a look at them. And if we have time at the end here, we'll definitely get to some of the audience questions as well. I want to start off first of all by saying that we do have a couple things. If you didn't receive the email today, we had one candidate withdraw her name. Sue Jones is no longer running. She sent an email today that said there's some personal issues that is going to prevent her from doing that. And then also, if you notice at the end there, Sarj is looking like he lost a little weight down there because you can't see him. This is typical Sarj Gill. He faxed to me the flyer at the event that he's had scheduled for 6 months. He said, "See, Russ, I want you to know I can't make it." He's doing a talk right now at Jay's Bistro on craniofacial and skull-based disorders. And I thought, well, Sarge, you're probably a good guy to talk about that, so that's good that he's there doing that. But he might sneak in here at the end. So if you see a chap walk up here and get on the stage, he's presenting from 7. Right now, he's probably presenting from 7:20. He said he was going to try to scoot over here and see if he could make the tail end of this forum. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to ask a series of questions, and we're just going to have them go start off in alphabetical order, then start at the next point, so a new person is going first on the question each time, or we might flip-flop. We'll see how crazy and wild I'm feeling as we go through that. But so we'll start off at this time, and what I'll have the candidates do is introduce themselves, and then tell us a little bit about their history with Liberty Common School. If they have, they do have kids here, their kids, what grades they're in, where they work, what they've done at the school, and we'll try to keep that to 2 minutes. If you hear me say, please wrap up, that means it's time to please wrap up. Does that make sense, Bill? Okay. All right, so we'll start off in alphabetical order, and we'll go down there with Crissy Kopren. So Crissy, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and starting off.
Okay, my name is Crissy.
Is it on, Casey?
Yeah, it's on.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Crissy Kopren. I have 3 kids. My oldest is in 4th grade. My middle child is in 2nd grade. And I have a boy who will be attending kindergarten next year. And I forgot to mention on my application my husband, and he was a little upset with me, so I need to mention him. His name's Torin, and we've been married for a little over 10 years. He's a good guy. So I love Liberty, and we wanted into Liberty when my daughter was a toddler. My oldest daughter was a toddler. But since we don't win lotteries ever, we don't ever win anything that's like chance-based, we didn't get in, and we weren't surprised. So we went in and appealed to the board when she was about in first grade. We appealed that they would expand. And then after that, I worked on the high school expansion committees. There was a couple committees there that I worked on. So after that, Alexa, my oldest, was able to get into the second grade, so she got in about halfway through her second grade year. I have been serving on the board for about the past 6 months. The reason I wanted to serve on the board in the first place, and the reason I still want to serve on the board, is simply just to protect liberty. I think that this is the best school in town, and I want to continue it going down that path of excellence. I support the founders in their vision and their philosophy. I think what they've done here is brilliant. I support the core curriculum. I think the character education that we have here is necessary and essential. And I also want to be a part of the decisions that are made at the high school. I want to make sure that those decisions follow that same vision that the founders have laid out. So with that, I guess I hope that I get to continue serving liberty and serving to make sure that this school just stays a great school as it is. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go ahead, and next up is Steve Mangelsdorf.
Thanks, Russ. My name's Steve Mangelsdorf, and I've been in Fort Collins since 1983, working for HP and various spin-offs of HP, currently Avago. I have 2 daughters. Harper is in 4th grade, and Remy, down here with the electronic babysitter, is in 2nd. And we did start off at Trout, and generally liked that quite a bit, but the older daughter got halfway through it, started looking ahead to middle school, and had the opportunity to come over in the expansion. I think I did my homework pretty well, because everything I expected to like more about Liberty, I did, particularly the character education and the behavioral expectations, but parts of the academic program also, grammar, spelling, vocabulary, handwriting, things that they tend to neglect to Trout a little bit, all seem a lot stronger here. But when you're talking about 2 really excellent schools like Liberty and Trout, there's always a couple things you miss about the old school. And one of the things I miss, and I think this feeling is shared by a lot of the parents that came over, is the strength of the parent partnership at Trout and the trust that the parent community has for the governance of the school. It seems to be a little bit stronger there than here at Liberty. And I'm interested in running on the board to try to improve communication. I think goal setting is really important, and it's important to have at least some public school improvement goals that we set and report on at the end of the year. And not every goal can be public, but I think it's important that the public be involved in the goal setting. And I think benchmarking is really important, and as an engineer, I kind of look at things from a glass half empty point of view. What can go wrong? What are the risks? What is the data telling us? So I think it's important that we look at test data, that we take the time to visit and compare ourselves to other schools, and adopt the best ideas.
Thank you. Mr. John Rohrbaugh.
I'm John Rohrbaugh, and my wife Janelle and I have 2 boys here at Liberty. David is in 7th grade, and Joshua is in 5th grade. Our journey to Liberty also started at Trout, incidentally. And about 5 years ago, the British School District decided to do a grade reconfiguration. And at that time, I researched a number of things. I concluded that middle school was not an ideal option at all. I concluded really that a K through 8 configuration, or K through 9 like Liberty had at the time, was very good, and that actually a K through 12 was probably one of the best configurations. I myself went to a K through 12 school from grade 7 to 12, really enjoyed it. And so I began to initiate with Liberty, and I showed up uninvited at board meetings and spoke at community comment and said, well, you should really start a high school. And as it became apparent that Liberty wanted to move in that direction, I volunteered my time and helped in kind of relationships with the school board and in some of the data analysis. And so I was, extended the privilege of being a founding parent of the high school very grateful for that. We really love it over here at Liberty. As Steve mentioned, there are just a lot of similarities to Trout, and there's some very good differences as well. The thing I see is my role on the board and wanting to be on the board is that the high school expansion is not yet complete, and I think it's really important to do it right the first time. I think a lot of work has been done, a ton of work has been done, but I'd like to be a part of the remaining work and in helping in some of the strategy and some of the planning and improvements that are made as we finish off the high school.
Wow, that was almost perfect, John. It's 1 minute and 59 seconds. Way to go. You must be an engineer.
I think we all are.
Yeah. You're right. We got to get a doctor up there sometime. Bill Werst.
Sure. My name is Bill Werst, and I have 3 children at Liberty Common. Katie started in kindergarten in Mrs. Shockley's class back in 2000, and she'll be in the first graduating class of the high school. William is in the 9th grade, and Michael is in the 5th grade. People ask me why I'd want to run for a second term on a Liberty board. I think the answer is pretty simple. What I want to do is see through the strategic plan that the board, the headmaster, and the administration have put forth, and see that through to conclusion. When we decided to expand to the high school, and I was part of the great reconfiguration work that we did. In fact, I was with Kayleen, was on the group that said, what if we had to go just K through 8, because we realized the 9th grade wasn't sustainable. And then we made the decision, should we expand to the high school? And I think a lot of things got caught up in the high school, but one of the most important things that happened is there's 200 more students down here at this building that get the opportunity for a Liberty education because we chose to expand to the high school. We had 1,000 kids on the waiting list, and we have more. There's 60 additional kids in the junior high, and now we've got the high school as well. And so it's important as a board that we build upon the top-notch core knowledge education we have and the foundation we've got, Singapore math and the other elements of it. It's also important that we have the classic liberal arts, or classic liberal college preparatory education at the high school as well, and the strong foundations we've got there, the character qualities that we have, and the values that help support the values of the parents, that it's reinforced at the school. One of the amazing things about the high school is it's a great small school. Kids can be on the sports team, do music, do performing arts, be part of student government. That's something that isn't offered elsewhere, and I want to see that taken to conclusion. We've purchased the building from McWhinney. Yeah, I'll wrap up. Yeah, we purchased the building from McWhinney. We're expanding the classrooms, the 8 classrooms there. That's just the start. I want to see that whole strategic vision and the 5 to 10 year plan that we have laid out brought to conclusion.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and go on to the next question. And Steve, why don't we have you start off with this? Knowing that Liberty Common School is growing and expanding, what are the biggest funding challenges for the school that you can foresee, and how do we meet them?
Funding is always going to be an issue with the economy and property values and so on. I think probably the biggest thing that's under our control is hitting our target enrollment for the expanded high school and getting up to a full junior and senior class, and that would certainly bring in more funding. Beyond that, I don't think there's a lot of flexibility in terms of the amount of money we're going to be getting from the school district or the state, and it's just a matter of fundraising and grants and opportunities like that.
Okay, good, thank you. Mr. Rohrbaugh.
I think when you're in a growth mode, it's always challenging because things are not staying the same, and when you know that your enrollment is certain, when things are stable, then it's easier to plan. Being in a growth mode, certainly there's managing the enrollment, which is tied to money. There's also, as you have enrollment and you have different numbers of kids in each class, you need to manage the class offerings, the staffing. You need to hire people at the right time, but not too soon, again, because of financial concerns. You've got building space concerns. There's also, I think, in growth mode, establishing a culture at the high school, and that's, you want to make sure that that is done well, because that'll be the precedent going forward. And so there's both opportunity and challenge in the time of growth and in the time of change. I think it's something that, if done well, it can be a great thing. I think, too, that a special challenge, and I might take this a little bit from Bill, but the lead class, the juniors right now, they're the pioneering class. And so as a result, the things that we're trying on them, the experiments we're trying on them, hopefully most of them will work. But on the other hand, it's more difficult for them. The plus side of being in a pioneering class is that you really get to lead. You get to break new ground, and that actually gives you skills and experiences that transcend the normal high school experience and will serve this class well as they graduate and move on. And I think one thing to really look at is that to make sure that this class gets the beneficial experience from being the pioneers and not too much of the hardship.
Yeah, from a funding challenge standpoint, I think we've been lucky as a board that we've had Tim Ricketts and the board's support to be very fiscally prudent. I think when we did the expansion, we expected each of the years that we'd run a deficit, and we've actually ran a surplus. And this is in a time when per pupil revenue funding is being cut at the state. We've been able to maintain teacher salaries. It's been difficult, it's been a challenge. Everyone has been working extra hard in this expansion doing that. We've been lucky that we've been able to award bonuses last year on the expansion. We wanted to share in that conservativeness with the staff who's been doing a tremendous job there. The key thing going forward is to not get ahead of yourself on the growth. The most important thing is education. That's why when we're building, it's the 8 classrooms that we're expanding. We're going to have that foundation in place first. The second thing is make sure at the elementary school that you don't scrimp. We had to do it a little bit the first year when we had the new students, but as a board we said the next thing is make sure this K through 6 has the books, the facilities we need, and in fact this year, doing some of that deferred maintenance is what we're doing on this building here. And then there's a lot of excitement. We talk about gym, athletic fields, a performance auditorium, and an engineering lab. We're trying to build upon our success and go out for grants and working with organizations that want to invest in the success and the education. And that's the way to get the funding. And then obviously doing the things that we've done through the solicitation offer that we did before Christmas and the spring gala that I hope people are going to attend this Friday night. It's a great fundraising opportunity. It's important. We can invest in extra stuff that we didn't get before. Things like athletic equipment, things like the sound system that we have here. We can do that as a school community for those extra things while we make sure we pay for the education. But the other reason to come to the Spring Gala is it's a great community event as parents to be there in the gathering that we're doing. So,
thank you. Crissy?
All right, I think the biggest funding challenges with the expansion, to me, it seems like would be finding and maintaining good teachers, finding them and being able to pay them and give them the appropriate raises that they need. To me, that seems like the biggest challenge, especially with the PPR going down every year, as it has in the past because of the economy. Also, with the expansion, obviously the buildings and just making enough space for it is going to be a challenge. But we do have Tim and a great financial committee who work very hard at being creative and finding ways, as Liberty has always done as a charter school, being creative on how to cut where we can and just do our best to make sure that the teachers are first priority and the educating the kids come before the rest of it. I also believe that the grants are a good possibility for our future. I think that that's a really good, hopeful thing, that we can get more grants and start writing more for those. So.
Okay, thank you.
Ross, could I see if anyone has any questions written down that I didn't pick up? Anyone want to?
If you came in late, there's some cards, I believe, too, that you can fill out if you have a question. Okay, thank you. If you have one of those, let Amy know, and then she'll collect it from you. Okay, we'll move on down the line to Mr. Rohrbaugh, if you would, please. What other challenges do you foresee for LCS in the future, and how would you propose addressing them?
I think probably the biggest challenge I would see, aside from the growth and the change, is making sure that we don't get complacent. When you've got an organization that's growing, it's exciting, there are things that are changing, there's work to be done. When you get an organization down the road several years, you reach a steady state, you may not get 5 candidates for 2 board positions. You may only get 2, or you may have to twist the arm and get, hardly get 2. And so I think that communicating the values, the passion, the vision that the founding parents and those after them have had, and continuing that to indoctrinate, if you will, our community with those values would be probably the most important thing we can do.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is keeping the foundation that we have, and at the same time continuing to work on continuous improvement. I think the complacency that you talk about, I think in the high school it's pretty clear. There's so many new things going on, and we have a lot of discussions on how to improve because it's the first time doing it. When we get to the elementary and the junior high, there I think we've had such strong success, and I think the board's been pretty good at looking at what are the areas we still improve. It's not just about being proficient, it's about being advanced proficient. How are we getting more kids to that level? The other challenge, I think, is a little bit culturally with the 7th and 8th graders, which is how do we carve out their identity in the junior high, that they're not feeling kind of caught up in being the younger kids in the high school. And I think that's one of the things as we think about the school, how it's laid out, the culture we have. Junior high is a very important time, and we need to make sure that they can enjoy that important time just being 7th and 8th graders before they make the move to the high school.
Hey, believe me, they're still enjoying their time at our school there. Just ask our teachers every day, they deal with it. Just joking. All right, Crissy.
All right, I have to echo John on this one. I think that the complacency is tough. Apathetic parents are probably the one thing I see at the elementary school the most. With the expansion, they got in, and I don't know that they really know what Liberty's about. I don't think that they understand the difference between Liberty and the other schools, and that's really disheartening. I'm not sure how you change it other than you talk to them one at a time, but it does seem like it's a problem I foresee in the future, that we have to somehow educate the parents about the difference of Liberty and the other schools and why it's so important to keep fighting for Liberty. I've seen the volunteering. I know that, or it seems as if, I've heard that the volunteering is getting harder and harder to find. People that just are willing to come and support this school, and it's, I think, essential for our school. That's why it was such a great school to begin with, is it was all parent run. And so I echo that. It's got to be the complacency.
Steve?
Yeah, well, based on the ages of my children, I tend to keep a closer eye on the elementary than the high school. And one of the things I struggled with coming over from Trout was some of the test scores. There are many test scores at Liberty that are great, and we hear about those at the ice cream social and so on. First in the state here and first in the district there or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with celebrating success and having some school spirit. But there's also some softer areas in the elementary school. 5th grade has been pretty poor, although it did bounce back in the latest set of scores. And The advanced scores are, in some cases, people believe we're first or second in the proficient, and are often surprised to hear that we're not first or second in the advanced. We're more typically fourth or fifth, something like that. So we've got to kind of look at what that data is telling us and not get complacent. I think I agree a lot of the parents are too apathetic, and we should probably revitalize our parent education efforts. There's a committee that doesn't seem to be too active. Cassie's doing some good work with the Singapore math. Maybe we could do something like that with writing and other aspects of educational philosophy.
Okay, thank you. All right, next question, and we'll start off with you, Bill. We'll go with the audience one here. What, if anything, would you like to see change at the elementary school and/or the high school?
For the elementary school, I think the biggest change I would like to have is the ability to free up the facility so we could have more activities here. This gym is used 200 nights plus a year, and it ends up, because of the junior high and the high school using it, some of the opportunities like little dribbler programs and other things that we used to have don't get used, even when you have the performance that take place, that you're going from event to event. So in terms of part of the capital expansion is to look at how do we do that, because it can free up to have the environment for the extracurricular activities that maybe we can't do right now here at K-6. In the high school, I think the biggest thing is we looked at the parent surveys that came back that I think we're looking at is the house system has tremendous potential. A lot of things have been going really well with it, but it's an area we want to invest in more to get more structure and organization, more opportunities for leadership for the students to really enhance that life. Similarly with the order system that we started with the junior high, enhancing that area. So those are the things that we're at least talking as a board to say where do we focus on.
Thank you. Crissy?
I guess about the elementary school, the only thing that I can think of that I would like to change is the teacher pay. I would like to see teachers just get paid more. Obviously, we can't do that with a decreased PPR and the economy the way it is, but that's really the only thing I can think of that I see that I'd like to change. The high school I'm not as familiar with because I don't have kids there. I do know they're in close quarters there and need a little bit more room, so I guess I would hope that with money we could expand a little bit more and give them some more room.
Thanks, Steve.
Let's see, for the elementary school, kind of going a little bit further with what I was saying about the advanced scores on the testing. We don't really have a strategy for ability grouping and gifted, talented in the elementary school. In reading, the kids kind of self-differentiate. Maybe that's not such a big deal. But in math, we really have no concept of ability grouping or challenge math. I think that's another thing I miss a little bit about Trout. And my kids would definitely appreciate not having to do extra math at home. They'd much rather do it here. Let's see. And again, I'm not as familiar with the high school, but I guess a concern I would have had 2 or 3 years ago before the high school expansion is that Fort Collins does not need another elite charter high school with 20 seniors, kind of like Ridgeview. We really need to get to full class sizes, and it's kind of a chicken and the egg problem because kids don't want to be going to a small school while it's building and miss out on a lot of the social opportunities and extracurriculars that are more limited right now. So we need to keep the academic rigor and make sure all our educational philosophy goals are number one, but we've got to find a way to invest to get the high school full.
Thanks, John.
So regarding the elementary school, I agree with Steve. There's a concept called response to intervention. Essentially what that means is that when you have students that are either challenged in their performance or students that are exceeding expectations in their performance. They're kind of on both sides of the bell curve, and you need to deal with these students. And I think at Liberty we do pretty well in dealing with the students who are challenged, and there's special, at times special pull-out groups for them in the elementary with parents working with them. I think that we could do the same thing with the kids on the other side of the bell curve who are high achieving, and have groups, say reading and math, to pull out and have a parent do that and work with those kids as well. I think that would help meet their needs. In the high school, one of the key things that I see, and I think it's being addressed, is just the lack of space. The locker space, the hallway crowding, even the bathroom situation is a little tight. With the expansion that's being planned, it's going to include wider hallways, more lockers, and that's going to be done by next school year. And I think that, as I understand it, from the plans I've seen, is going to address the main concerns that I see now in the high school.
All right, thank you. In order to get to a few more of these questions that we have on our sheet and then also that are from the audience, can I ask you to do a speed round here, a couple speed rounds, just try to keep it to under a minute, see how we can do with that, okay? So the next question, we'll jump back to Crissy to lead us off. Our founding charter and many of our policies and bylaws have been in place for 16 years now. Do you still find them adequate for our school today?
Absolutely. I think that it was talking about the mission of the schools to provide excellence and fairness in education for school children through a common foundation. Absolutely, through core knowledge and also by the character education. Those are pretty fundamental. I don't think that they're anything that would change with time. So.
Steve?
Yeah, we're real happy with the general philosophy of the school and how it's implemented. My oldest child is just in 4th grade, so I'm not seeing a whole lot in terms of the thinking skills and critical thinking skills as is outlined in the charter. So, perhaps, and those do obviously build in importance as the kids get older. So that's something I've got my eye on. Is, are we doing enough in that area and are we following through on that vision?
Thanks, John.
So I recently read through the charter so I could check the box on the application form that says I've read it. And I found myself in agreement with what was outlined in the charter. It was put together by people who had read a number of books and done a lot of research on education. I've done a fair amount myself. But it's not something I would make drastic changes to. Any document, you may want to tune it very, very slightly after a lot of careful thought and contemplation. But I can't really pick out a specific thing I would recommend for tuning at this time.
Bill?
Yeah, I think it's up to date, and especially since Cassie Turner led the board through revisions of it and updating it. And the fundamental philosophies were all strong and sound. There was no debate there. There were some new things with the high school and things that we've discovered along the way that we had to add new policies to it. But Cassie did a great job leading us through that to get it up to date.
Okay, thanks. Man, that's good. I say keep it to a minute. Everybody goes under 40 seconds. I like that. Okay, next question. We'll start off with Steve. A couple times tonight we've heard the BOD candidates say that they would like to see increased communication with the parent population. How do you propose you would go about doing that?
Well, let's see. I worked with Terry Fisher last year on kind of defining the parent and I guess the staff survey also. And I kind of assumed at the end of the year that would be, the results would be shared with the parent community, and was surprised that it wasn't. It was done recently, which I think is a great step in the right direction. But you can do Google searches on the Liberty Common website, and there's no obvious mention of the results that have been shared in the Monday notes. So that kind of thing is important. I think just sending out the agendas for the board meetings, even though it's on the website, people can go there and click on it. Just email it out, and that way no one can claim that they don't know what the board does or what the meetings are about, or whether they're welcome to attend. And I think committees, the role of committees seems to have contracted a little bit in recent years, looking back over the board of directors minutes and newsletters for many years in the past. So I think we should try to revitalize committees so that more people can be involved and we can start growing the next set of board members.
Thanks. John?
So I think the one thing I've noticed, I do go to the website, I look at the board minutes and the agendas, and sometimes I do find the minutes a little terse. It's not easy for me to figure out what might have gone on at the board meeting in much detail. So that was one thing that I think could be expanded a little bit. I think the other thing is just maybe impart to parents a sense that they should take an initiative in getting involved, and I think as parents are more involved, they'll become more aware of things transpiring at the school.
When we get the survey results, I think board communication is always one of the lower scoring areas, and we talk about it. I think some of the suggestions that you all brought up in terms of the emailing the agendas out ahead of time is definitely one way to do it, so people are aware of what's going on. I think the parent education that we've done in the past and done with Singapore Math and some of the other areas is a good way to do it. It's always a challenge in terms of how many people will attend. The way the school is structured, the headmaster is the CEO of the school and does most of the communication. But trust me, the board is very much involved in that communication. That's why even things like the survey results you'd see, once we process through that, Russ was discussing it in the next Monday notes. So something we always just have to keep working on.
Okay, thanks.
I agree. This one's kind of a challenge because I feel like we do publish the minutes on the website. Our numbers are all listed on the Monday notes, and they can contact us anytime with questions. All the board meetings are open to the public, so I kind of feel like we've gone halfway. We need them to meet us at some point back. If they have questions or whatever, we're absolutely willing to answer. So this is a challenge for me. These are good ideas. I'm willing to do whatever the parents want, but I think that at some point they have to come back and meet us.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to John for this question. The number of times it's been mentioned tonight already about needing to procure grants or donations to our school as a source of funding. How will you specifically pursue this option?
One thing that I've seen, and it's somewhat unconventional, if you have a group of parents, a group of people really who are passionately involved and really locked into the school, you can ask them for money and they will give it. And you don't necessarily need a lot of external stuff surrounding that. And I think an emphasis would be is ask people, you present the need, you present what the money would be used for, and then you ask them to give not equal giving, but equal sacrifice. And you can even suggest, well, they can do the math. They can figure out based on the amount that you specify as a need that they can figure out what they should give. I've seen that be effective in groups where there is high commitment. I think that could be worth a try here.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, so I've been involved. The Daniels Fund grant is probably one of the most critical ones. Was at some other meetings, and Bob would introduce us to the people from the Daniels Fund, and going down there and meeting them, and hopefully it's going to result in a fairly significant grant. Wrote a grant for HP. Unfortunately, we didn't win that one. It's just it's just a lot of hard work on doing the efforts for grants, and unfortunately, a lot of the grants, or fortunately, a lot of the grants go to schools with different demographics, different financial incomes for the student population. That's where a lot of the grant money goes. What we have to do is very targeted, which is go after the people that want to give grants for excellence. And that's what we do, and it's a voluntary effort. A lot of parents are involved. Some people are good at writing those grants, and we try to pull them into the board to go after the right ones.
Thanks. Crissy?
I agree with that. We have a committee right now that's pulling some grants together, or pulling some writing together. And I was thinking about trying to join that committee, and then I realized my writing skills are not up to par at all. But grants are tough. We do have to try to seek out the grants that will give to a school that, is excellent, and those are tough to find. So we just need to find those. I think that's the biggest thing, is finding the ones that will work for Liberty.
Thank you. Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough area. I think it's just important to make sure the accountability is clear of who's doing the job of managing the process of seeking out these grants and make sure we get the applications done, hit the deadlines, and so on. And I don't know if that's the administration or a committee, but just make sure the accountability is clear, the goal is clear, and that the person accountable knows that they should make clear what is needed, to in terms of more grant writers or support to make it happen.
Okay, thanks. Bill, you'll lead off for us this time. In your opinion, what should be the strategic priorities for Liberty in the next 5 years?
For me, I wrote that up as kind of a closing statement, but make sure the school's adhering to the founder's vision as outlined in the charter documents. Follow and keep improving on the curriculum we use in K through 8 in the core knowledge sequence. Complete the development of the high school curriculum. Keep the school on a sound and stable financial foundation. Hire and supervise the administration, and then execute on the strategic plan.
Thanks. Crissy?
I agree that the high school is probably one of our top priorities right now, making sure that the decisions made there follow the vision of the founders. I agree just keeping the elementary school on track, making sure that the excellence is maintained, hiring and maintaining good teachers, and having cannot think of the word right now, having being able to be competitive, there you go, with their pay with the district, being able to make sure we find the best ones, and I think more than anything, just continuing a great school, and not letting the world and the way that they look at education, not letting that seep in.
Thanks. Steve?
I think I agree that it's completing the expansion of the high school, making sure we hire and retain the best teachers, and just that we stay competitive, so that that we invest enough in looking around, seeing what other schools are doing, what's working, what's not, kind of networking with similar schools, and finding the best ideas for continuous improvement.
Thanks. John?
I think I'll agree with my fellow candidates. I think that, the key thing that's changing right now is the high school. And I think that we need to bring that to a point of stability. Not that there's a problem with it, but just that we have the growth and the change right now. The grades K through 8 are at kind of a more stable point, and I think that the key there is to keep maintaining the excellence, keep maintaining what we have. And I think if we look at really, the three things, the parents, the students, and the teachers, and all have that in partnership, make sure that we're equally supporting each other, we maintain the vision that's been laid out, and that we kind of poke each other just a little bit to make sure we don't get complacent, to make sure that we keep improving where there's opportunity to improve.
Okay. Back to Crissy, right? Yeah. We've heard a common theme just now, that continuing to focus on the expansion of the high school. Next question is, how do you think the high school expansion has gone thus far?
Other than obviously things that happen with a new school, no matter where you're at and what the school's like, we had some things that we had to work out with that, but really I think it's gone great. I think that high school is, those kids are amazing there. I've got to talk to some of them, and they're just great people, and I think we have a great start. I think that it's exciting to see where it's going to go, the small school feel, and it kind of reminds me of my school back in South Dakota, so it's just, I'm excited for them. I think it's going to be a great school. I think we have a great start so far.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, I'm real pleased we came over from Trout. You know, the most at the time was that we'd be happy with the middle school when the kids got old enough, and I am just, my attitude on the high school initially was, well, we'll wait and see. But now I'm just really excited that they're going to make it all the way through and graduate as seniors from Liberty High, which is very exciting.
Thanks, John.
So I think that the high school expansion has gone exceedingly well. I remember in some of those meetings that I was a part of, there were a number of projections to figure out, can we really even afford this thing? And the numbers, there's a lower bound of pessimistic numbers to say that if we assume this, or assume the worst, and it will still work, but let's go forward. We are absolutely killing those projections. With the number of students that have been attracted to the high school, it's gone exceedingly well. And it's not just about numbers. I mean, the reason we have people coming is because people value what we're offering. They see it's a good thing. The fact that we've acquired an excellent building in a great location, that's just a bonus. I mean, we were talking about one of the buildings out here and trying to somehow refurbish it and make it into a high school. I just think that we're extremely well situated. I mean, it's not come without a few difficulties and a little bit of inconvenience, but far worth it. I mean, what I'm trying to say, that's nothing. It's gone really well.
Thank you. Bill?
Much better than I expected going into it. I think the waiting list for the 9th grade that we have 2 years into it is much different situation than we thought of what could potentially be the risks. I think the reason it's gone so well is that commitment to excellence that everyone's dedicated, from the teachers to the administration. And we've encountered all sorts of issues that we never thought of. It's like every day there's something new coming up. But there's a commitment and a resiliency to say we're going to work through it and make it better. And I think that's what makes Liberty Commons special. We took the general ideas that we had and we just keep building and improving upon it. And I think that's why it's going well, and that's why people are saying, yes, I want to send my kid to Liberty Common High School.
Okay, we'll have one more question, and then we will give you a couple minutes to wrap up. So the final question, it looks like we'll start with Steve this time. Again, we heard some folks talk about the apathy of the parent population and not being involved with committees and not volunteering as much. How will you enhance the parent culture and parent involvement?
Let's see. Well, I think many parents feel that there's kind of an inner circle, with the administration and the board, and quite as easy to get involved with committees as it first appears. You might express interest in something like a curriculum committee or a school improvement team committee, and you might hear, oh, well, that's a board-appointed committee, or that committee's not meeting this year because we don't have any issues or whatever. But how exactly does that get decided that the committee doesn't meet this year? Maybe it should meet once a year to decide if it needs to meet anymore. So I don't think it's the problem is completely apathy. I think also that there's a perception among the parents that the administration of the board wants them involved, but there might be a need or a desire to screen exactly who's involved and what the ideas are and so on. So it's a two-way street.
Thanks, John.
So I'd say three things. First thing is that there needs to be a setting of expectations or kind of an education of parents as a whole. And it's just a matter of saying, well, this is what we do at Liberty. We're expected to volunteer. And it's not so much that we can force parents to volunteer, but set that expectation that that's what we do here, and lead by example. The second thing is that we can ask people to volunteer. And there are a lot of people who would be honored to be asked, and if they're asked, they would rise up and volunteer. And I think the third thing, and this is the one thing I don't know how to do, but I've seen it when we were at Trout. Before school, the parents could kind of congregate in front of the school on the sidewalks and have informal conversations. Those sort of things were good at building kind of a bond in the parent community, and even with the administration. And if there was if there were more informal opportunities for the parent community to just kind of mingle together and talk together, I think some of these expectations, some of these invitations could be more readily extended than if we're in our cars a lot.
Thanks, Bill.
I think the good news is 2 years ago as the board, we weren't having any more candidates running for spots than we had on it. One of the discussions we had is, it seems like it's kind of the same board members who've been in there. What is the next generation going to be? We don't have many parents of elementary school students. You look at the 4 candidates up here tonight, all 4 have elementary school students. So I think we're seeing the next generation of leaders getting involved. All of the 3 people up here have been involved in different ways. I see the fundraising committee is up and going, the spring gala, that idea, the grandparents club. I think the involvement is building. I think the main thing is to ask and continue to ask and look at the parents to say, and how can I volunteer? The opportunities are there. Typically where the biggest involvement comes is someone sees a need. There's needs for a booster club for the athletic teams that can get the camaraderie. There's needs for reading list. How do we expand the reading list? Who can read all those books to say what books should be added? So.
Thank you. Crissy?
More opportunities for the parents to get together would probably be helpful. I also think that asking them would be good. Sometimes it just takes getting them there and getting them to do it once or twice to realize it's not that big a deal and they can do it. A lot of times that it helps if you can just get them there once to help. It's a tough question. That short of talking to people individually, somehow getting them to know the history behind Liberty and getting them to know what made Liberty, getting them to know that it was the parent involvement. And I think that's somehow, with only 30% of the people opening the Monday notes, I don't know how you get that word out. But I guess I'm hoping that, by talking to people and having the opportunities to talk to people and having the time that the parents can get together and talk would be beneficial.
Thanks. Steve, would you start this one?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, I'm going to call up another person here real quick. Snuck in the back door. Please come on up here, Sarj. This is Dr. Sarj Gill. How'd your speech go?
It was good.
Good.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. We are getting ready to wrap up, so what we're going to ask you to do, I'll probably have you go first and give you a little bit of leeway on time here, but if you would, you can do your opening and closing remarks. Introduce yourself, and
I'd be happy to.
Yeah, and then we'll go on down the line, and everybody else can give your closing remarks at this point.
Great. First of all, I just want to say I apologize for being late. I had a commitment that I just could not get out of. And also that I'm just honored to be up here with everyone seeking a position on the board. And my belief is, after looking at everyone's bios, that we have some very good candidates, and I'm sure that any 2 people up here would do a fabulous job. on the board. I truly believe that. I was sorry to see that Sue Jones had to withdraw because I thought she was exceptional as well. But it's nice to see the parental involvement. So thanks for letting me have a few moments. Myself, I'm a head and neck surgeon. I'm a small business owner. I'm a first generation immigrant to this beautiful country of ours. And I've had a chance to experience education in the public school system. And it was quite interesting coming from a different country and going to school here in the United States and through the public school system, knowing what I experienced and now seeing what my children have an opportunity to experience. It's light years apart from the type of exposure and education opportunities in the educational curriculum that I had. And to see, my kids, I have 3 kids that attend Liberty, and see the kind of school curriculum that they have. I love the school. I think it's fabulous. I love all the students, and I love the parents that I've met. And I've had a chance to meet a wide variety of individuals, and all the parents I've met have been polite, kind, and I think we have great resources in the parent population that can provide and give to the school. And it's exciting to see that for the board, we've got such good candidates that want to participate. And so this is a school that I would love to see continue to grow. And being on the board, I don't want to change course dramatically. I think the mission and the vision that has been laid out by the founders of the school, missions of the school, they're outstanding. I think that we just need to help that vision grow. And as we increase our footprint in northern Colorado as a school by opening up our tracks for primary education and our elementary school and our middle school, and now we're embarking into a high school, there's going to be a lot of different challenges that we're going to confront. And there are different resources that we can tap into the parental pool. And my motivation to be on the board is to just help it grow and to try to be a good steward and to make sure that the board fulfills its responsibilities to the students, to the parents, and to the teachers. And the few things that I think that I may be able to possibly contribute is, in my profession, I have to be a good listener. And in my profession, I have to problem solve. And I have to be an effective communicator. Because sometimes the things you're communicating may not be received well, but those are the skills that I need to have, and I use them every day. And if I'm lucky enough to be on the board, I'll try to listen. I'll try to help resolve conflict, and I'll try to help think through situations or circumstances that we as a school may encounter, and I'll try to communicate them effectively. And those are the things that I'll try my best to do.
Thanks, Sarj. Way to come in there cold and get after it. That's good. Sort of like surgeries, right? Just jump in there and get after it, right? All right, Crissy, thanks.
I feel like what I had to contribute to the board is I have an education. I have a degree in engineering, and I actually was not prepared for it with my high school, and so I had a lot of catching up to do when I made it to college. And I kind of feel like from that, I know now what the kids need to be prepared for college. I feel like I know what they can also handle in high school, and so I look at that as being one thing that I can contribute. Another thing I can contribute is that, I decided to stay home, and I think that my education also helped that. There was a quote that by Thomas Huxley. He said, "Perhaps the most valuable result of all education is the ability to make yourself do the things you have to do when it ought to be done, whether you like it or not. And so I guess I like to look at education as not just to do maybe what the world thinks it should do, but also to make the tough choices in the hard times. And I feel like that's what Liberty does so well. It doesn't just, it teaches them academics, it teaches them the knowledge and the facts that they need to make the good choices. It also teaches them character education, which they need. And I want to protect that. I think that that's just a great thing. And the other schools that we see just fail they fail a lot in that area. So I want to be able to make sure that our school stays on track. I want our kids to know facts and knowledge about this world. I want them to be well-rounded, and I want to just to continue doing what Liberty has been great at doing.
Thanks, Steve.
Well, yeah, I'm just real impressed with the other candidates and some of the visions and ideas that have been shared. I think we need an election every once in a while to kind of to get those ideas out and change the direction ever so slightly. But we've got pretty good attendance here, so thanks for coming. And maybe we get this kind of attendance to talk to the candidates. What kind of attendance will we get for sort of an annual parent meeting with the board or the administration? So that's something that could help improve our parental involvement and volunteering also. So I think most of what I wanted to talk about has come out. I think one thing I'd like to see more of that's really important to me as an engineer is setting goals. And if you go back and read the original charter, there's discussion about school improvement team and school improvement plan and how that plan is generated every year, and the report card that's generated at the end of the year to see how we did compared to those goals. And I'm not sure we're really using the process, at least how I read it from the original charter. So I'd like to see more kind of public involvement in goal setting. I'd like to see some. Our administration does need some room to maneuver. Not everything should be publicly emphasized, but I think we do need some kind of public school improvement goals that will pull together the parents and teachers and board and administration, and kind of build the trust and the feeling of community a little bit more. So, thanks.
Okay, thanks, John.
So every once in a while, you get to be part of something really cool. And I'm glad that there's not only me, but also 4 other folks who want to partake of that. I think Liberty Common School is something that's really cool. The academics, the character education, the partnership with the parents, this is a great mix. It works really well, and I would like to see it continue to work really well. I think that Liberty, if we kind of look at a big picture, Liberty brings benefit to students and families. It brings benefit to the school, the staff here. But Liberty can bring benefit to PSD, and it already is a little bit, and that's okay. It's okay if we help make PSD a little bit better, because if we can't compete, we need to be done. Liberty can make Fort Collins a better place to live and work, and Liberty can have influence beyond that, on the state and the nation. We're building into the students and families some really great things, and that's exciting. It's worthwhile giving time and effort to, and I'm excited to step up and volunteer to do that. As an engineer, I like to make things better. I like to solve problems. I like strategy. These are some of the things that I can bring to the board. Not saying that everything needs to be fixed or everything needs to be improved, but where there's that opportunity, I'd love to jump in.
Thanks, John. Bill?
The reason we're back here in Fort Collins is because of Liberty Common. People may have known that we moved to Germany back in 2004, right after I had been elected to the board the first time. And being in another school system and experiencing a school with a lot of money, but not the characters and values of Liberty Common. After 3 years, Julie and I said, we need to get back here to get the kids back into the school. And the best decision we ever made as a family is to be a part of it. It's been an honor to serve, supporting the board when we were deciding on the expansion, to be a part of the expansion. I want to see the strategic plan brought to the next level. I'd be honored to serve 3 more years on the board and to continue to improve. The school's motto that you hear so much is Semper Excelsius, always excellent. And if Liberty Common's going to do it, then we're going to do it excellently. I want to be part of doing that excellently for the next 3 years.
Okay, well, thank you very much. As a headmaster of the school, I too must say that I am very impressed with our candidates for the board of directors this year. It looks like no matter who gets elected, our school is going to have 2 strong candidates to help drive the school into the future and to continue on with our excellence with the elementary school and become, which is already is one of the best schools in the state of Colorado, already been recognized nationally, and I feel that that's going to be the case with the high school as well. And so I thank you very much for coming out this evening. And it's apparent to me as I listen to you guys that you love Liberty Common School too, don't you? And as I always finish up, just want you guys to know one thing. I love Liberty Common School. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. And let's give our candidates a round of applause. Please make sure you encourage all your friends that you know go to school here, our parents here, to fill out their ballots. It's just crucial that we get at least 50% of the vote in, or else we have to do it all over again, which wastes a lot of time and money. So let's just make sure you encourage everybody to vote, okay? Ballots have to be in by next Friday, a week from tomorrow at 4 p.m. All right? Thank you again, everybody.